I closed a $3,500 website client with this exact framework that I'm going to share with you in this video. Now, one of the questions that I get asked all the time by agency owners that are just starting out is, how can I actually close clients on a sales call? Well, in this video, I'm going to share my entire framework. So if you're struggling to close clients or you're not sure how to go about sales calls, by the end of this video, you'll have a system that you can copy and use at your agency. All right, so let me show you how I closed this $3,500 website client at my sell and deploy agency. I'm going to cover three things in this video. The first is the sales call structure. The second is the offer positioning, and then last and third is going to be the objection handling. At this point, you might have the question, who is this guy and why should you listen to him? The short answer is you don't have to. I am not claiming to be a sales pro, but I have booked over 250 calls at my agency, and last month I made over $30,000. So I'm going to show you my Stripe live. So March 2025, I hit apply. You can see that I've made over $30,000. So with that out of the way, the first step or the first part of the video is the sales call structure. I kind of base my sales call structure from Alex Hormozi's closer framework. First step is intro/framing. The second step is discovery. Third step is pitching the offer and solution. And then last is objection handling and the close. So what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to go through each of these stages and I'm going to have don'ts and do's, and that way you can see what I used to do in the past and what I'm doing now, having taken a lot of sales calls, so you can avoid these mistakes as well and start closing deals at your agency. So in the intro/framing, what you don't want to do is seem overly desperate and put a prospect on a pedestal. This is not just in this stage of the sales call, but throughout the entire call. And what you do want to do instead is respect the prospect, but position yourself as an authority, somebody that is an expert or somebody that they can trust if you don't have as much experience. Kind of like the same thing in dating. If you're too desperate, you put the other person on a pedestal, they're going to be repelled. And in this case, what this means is that it's less likely that they're going to buy our services. We don't want to be overly formal or robotic, like too rigid. That's going to make it so that subconsciously the prospect is also going to be tense. It's going to raise their guard, make it less likely that they're buy. So what we do want to do is make the prospect feel at ease, be charismatic, be professional, but relaxed and welcoming as well. The next don't, and this took me a little bit to understand this, and I see a lot of people doing this as well, is that they make it about themselves and their services. The prospect is not going to relate. The truth is they don't care. Instead is make it about the prospect, about the problem that they face and the dream outcome that they want to achieve. What you don't want to do when you're starting the call is letting the prospect dictate how the call is going to go. So this happened to me in the past. I would hop on calls and the client would start talking about some random tangent. Next thing you know, 2-3 minutes have passed and I still haven't been able to come back. And at that point, the prospect is in control. So by that same logic, you don't want to be vague about the agenda. You want to make sure that the prospect has a clear agenda as to what's going to happen. So the prospect feels at ease. They know exactly what's happening. And then you lay out the agenda for the call. Now, what this might look in action could be something like, hey John, how I usually like to run these calls is that first I want to learn more about your business. Before I try to make you an offer, I want to make sure that I can even help you. And if I can help you, I'll let you know how. All that I ask is if I can help you, that you let me know if it's a yes or a no. If not, no worries. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But I do want us to get to a decision by the end of this call. Making sure that you set clear expectations and you let them know first. You're going to ask them some questions to know what their needs are. Then you're going to let them know how you can help them, position your offer, and then at the end you can decide or address any of their questions and then help them decide. For the second part of the sales call is the discovery. First don't is, and I used to do this all the time, talk more than the prospect. Make sure that they're the ones doing the talking so you can actually learn and they feel like they're being understood subconsciously as well. You don't want to make sure that you assume that you know why the prospect is in the call. So what this could look like, of course, you want to make sure that you ask questions in a curious manner to learn why are they on this call. If they did provide some information on the calendar or on the form, you can dig a little bit more and being genuinely curious about why they hopped on this call, and then we can use this to dig further down or later on in the sales call. What we don't want to do is, as soon as they tell us an answer, jump straight into a feature and try to sell them at the first chance that we get. What we are going to do is make sure that we acknowledge what they're saying, make sure that they feel like they're being listened, and then we ask more questions leading into their pain points and dream outcomes. So for instance, if they say, I'm missing a lot of leads because I don't have as many Google reviews, or my website is not up to standards, or whatever it may be that they say, you could say something like, oh, interesting. Why exactly do you think this is a problem in your business? That way, they're the ones opening up. And then later in the call, again, you'll use all of the information to link it to your solution and make it more likely that they see how your solution relates exactly to the problems that they're facing or the dream outcome that they want to achieve. The last don't is to wait until the very end to address an objection. So if there's an obstacle that comes up, make sure that you try to address it right there and then. That way it won't blow up at the end of the call. A question that I like to ask right here is, hey John, hiring a web design agency is expensive. I'm just curious, why not build this website yourself or have somebody on Fiverr do this for you? So what this does is that now they're gonna have to kind of like sell themselves into your solution, and by you letting them know up front that you are expensive, you're making it so they don't expect you to be like the same prices as somebody on Fiverr. The next step of the sales call is the offer or the solution. So what you don't want to do is go straight in and jump into technicalities and features. So for instance, it would be like, hey, let me show you specifics about how we build websites, run your ads, blah, 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 blah. What you would do instead is to transition from the previous phase, the discovery, to the offer/solution. Hey John, based on XYZ, it seems like I can help you with your business. Is it okay if I share with you how? So it's like very natural. And once you do this, focusing on the dream outcome, not so much on the technicalities or specifics of your service. The next thing would be to not use overly complicated terms, trying to like sound smart, kind of like something like this. John, we offer full custom web design solutions, CRM integrations, email marketing, blah, 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 blah. And you can pick from one of our pre-built systems, or we can build you one from scratch. So this is bad in two ways. First, it's very complicated. And then second, kind of like overwhelms the prospect because they have to decide whether they need a pre-built solution or one from scratch. Instead, what you do want to do is make sure that whatever offer you give to them or you pitch to them directly addresses the problem and is tied to an outcome that is important to them. And again, I'm going to share with you more specifics about the offer and solution in just one sec. But for now, I'm just going to go through this last phase of the sales call, which is the objection handling close. The first is to try to win an argument against the prospect if an objection does come into play. A do would be, make sure that you show that you're on the same side as them. You're just helping them decide. They have a problem, you have a solution. You're just letting them know that your solution can help them with their problem. What we don't want to do, and I saw this actually on a previous job that I had, there was a prospect that wanted to see if our software had a specific feature. And again, this was back when I was on my 9 to 5, and the person that I was learning sales from completely disregarded their concern. They just went and say, oh, by the way, let me just show you a different feature that we had. Needless to say, they didn't buy our product. What you do want to do is something that I learned from Alex Hermosi and his whole framework in objection handling, which is AAA: acknowledge, associate, and ask. Now, towards the end of the video, when I go over objection handling, I'm going to show you live examples of what this looks like. For now, the last don't would be leave them wondering what is going to happen after they say yes. So be very big, like, thank you, I'll reach out tomorrow with more details. That's very big. Instead, you want to be as specific as you can. So for instance, it could be, hey John, once the invoice comes through, I'm going to send you a form within the next 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to do ABC so we can do XYZ as soon as possible. All right, now we're gonna go to offer positioning. And I wanted to start by showing you what most agencies and what my own web design agency in the beginning did. Jumping straight into features, which is a no, disregarding the client's pain points, and then just having overall bad positioning. And what I mean by that is I was looking on Fiverr for email marketing specialists, and you see how the prices that these people are charging are very, very low, very commoditized. I've talked about this on a different video, so I'm not gonna spend too much time, but you see this is $8, $29, $150. So if you had an offer that was $2,000 and a prospect is comparing you with these prices right here, in that scenario, the prospect is going to think that your services are very expensive. But that's, of course, if you're positioning yourself in such a way that you're competing with these guys right here. To make sure that we avoid this, I'm going to give you some examples right here of an actual offer. But before that, I just wanted to run you through this thought experiment. Imagine you're on the street and somebody walks up to you and says, hey, I have a 2025 Ferrari Roma. I need to get rid of it ASAP. I'm willing to sell this car, not for the 280 MSRP value, but I'm going to give it to you for 30 grand. 30 grand might be a lot of money for a lot of people, but because of the car's value is $280,000, even somebody that doesn't have any money to their name would find some way to try to get this money to buy this car. And the reason why is because the price to value delta is so big. So that's kind of like what we want to do as well with our agency services. Now, let's say in my case, for my offer in my sell and deploy agency, I wanted to charge $3,500, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, for a website client. If my price was $3,500 and all I was offering was kind of like what these guys were offering, quote unquote, a pretty website or something just focuses on the features, my perceived value will be prices like this. So it'd be very hard for me to charge these prices. However, if how I position my offer, more specifically here in sell and deploy, I go to a business owner with a full-on solution, which I've talked in previous videos, and I'm going to talk to you in just one sec right here. And I go to this business owner and tell them, hey, what would it mean for you to save $3,000 to $7,000 each month on payroll? Not only that, but what would it mean for you to increase the speed to lead on your website, which is going to lead to higher conversions, aka more revenue for your business. We're also going to help you reduce customer support workload because we're going to introduce AI to answer a lot of those repetitive questions that your prospects keep asking you on your stuff. And on top of that, we're also going to make it so that the website that we built you is going to sell, book, and handle customer inquiries 24/7, so you can close more deals even when you're asleep. Now, all of this right here is going to translate so that we free up some of your time and your staff time. How valuable would this be? All of this would make it so that we make you more money and you have happier customers. Just imagine if you could start seeing these results the next week. We're going to build this system for you and deploy it very, very quickly. When you frame your services, it may still be a website with some automations and AI in the back. It's going to be more likely than a prospect when we present our offer in the sales call is going to pay $3,500 right here. At this point, you may be wondering, how is it that we can provide something like this for a business? And we do this with a method called sell and deploy. I've talked about it in previous videos, so I'm not going to go too in depth right here. So as a quick side note, we deploy client-ready websites that we've built upfront for clients. We add some custom effects to make them beautiful. We add some automations and a lot of AI on the back using a software called High Level. And then we deploy all of this as a system, kind of like an AI website for clients. And instead of just saying, we're going to build you a quote-unquote pretty website, we present this solution, as I mentioned, with these benefits right here. That way we can charge higher prices because of the fact that we're helping businesses solve real problems like you see right here. For now, we've already covered the offer positioning. Now I'm going to show you how to actually go about handling objections in the sales call. All right, the way that I do this is, as I mentioned, with Alex Hormozi's AAA framework. So this is acknowledge, associate, and ask. So let's say after the sales call, going through the entire offer, a prospect has the following objection. Let me think about it. Some people might try to combat and aggressive towards it. What I've learned from Alex Hormozi is that you first acknowledge, then you associate, and then you ask a question back. What this looks like on action is definitely, I don't want you to rush to a decision you're not 100% sure on. Let's say that this prospect in the beginning of the call, they label themselves as being somebody that takes action. You then go ahead and associate. I do remember earlier on the call that you mentioned you're a action first entrepreneur. And then last you ask. So it would be something like this. What exactly do you need to think about? What are you not sure about? Or dig in deeper to see exactly what is the actual reason or why is it that they're not sure to go or buy. Now, the next objection that you might face, and I faced as well, is when a prospect says it's too expensive. First, we acknowledge, so we own this right here. So we say, yes, you're right, we are expensive. Then you associate. So it'd be some of our current clients like you had this concern before partnering with us. And then you just ask, why do you still think they chose to work with us? Or why do you think that is the case? And then here, what they need to do is well, I probably guess that you're the best in the market and it's expensive for a reason. So in a way, they're the ones selling themselves back into the solution. Other questions that we've asked at our agency is it a value or a cash flow issue? So this helps us realize if the prospect does want to go for it, but right now they just don't have the cash, or maybe they haven't seen the value yet. So we go back and try to see what exactly is it that they don't see the value in, or why is it that they're not sure. Sometimes they might say an initial objection, but the truth is there's one behind it. So asking these questions help us kind of find our way to the real objection. The last objection is, I need to talk to my wife or business partner. Again, acknowledge first. So I 100% get it, John. I don't want you to rush into any decision without the support of your wife. I'm just curious, what happens if she says no? Or even another question could be, why do you think that she might say no? But the thing is, it's not about the wife, it's about the fact that they still not fully believe it, or it might be too expensive. So by asking questions like this, we can make sure that we find the problem and then address it properly. As I mentioned, I do all of my fulfillment with this software called High Level. If you want to start your own sell and deploy agency, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link at the bottom of this video. I'm going to give you access to our entire system. So that includes the website templates, AI bot training scripts, access to our own community. So if you're new to High Level, this is the best way for you to get access to all of our systems and plug and play to your agency. Now, if you're an existing Go High Level user, you can click the second link in the description and you can buy our entire system from our store.